Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you're here. Today's date is Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Yesterday, I saw an article on roserambles.org, which I will have a link to in the video description box, and it was concerning med beds. And as I read this article, I became concerned about a couple of points that I think I want to bring to your attention. That's the Laura's View element of this video, and just share with you what my concerns were. Now, according to this article, that it says, as of this week, Trump's Space Force Command, under the umbrella of the Restored Republic and the Quantum Healing Directive, has made it official. Brainwave training is now legally and operationally required for medbed interaction. And it said that more info was available on gazetteller.com. Okay, as you read down this article, it talks about the brainwave activation and training that one needs to do, specifically to have more conscious control of your alpha waves, which is when you're alert and focused, or your delta waves, which is your very deep, slow brainwave patterns. And then in between those is the theta waves, which didn't seem to be touched on in this article that I was reading. Now, here's where I got concerned. There were links to YouTube videos that would help one to learn to control their brainwaves. As you work in meditative states and work at broadening your focus and having more conscious control of your brainwaves, that's excellent. But I felt like it puts you a little bit at risk mentally to be open and vulnerable to suggestion. Now, I am not implying that the original creators of the linked videos that were shared did anything nefarious, but we do know that the deep state wants us to remain asleep or get misdirected or in some way lose our focus and, point. I don't know about you, but waking up was a lengthy thing. It's probably still in process in some ways, and it wasn't easy. And I would really hesitate to put myself at risk of being reprogrammed or have some subconscious suggestions given to me that might influence my thinking, my thought patterns, etc. So that was my concern with those links. Again, there may be nothing wrong with them now, but that doesn't mean that 3 months from now, some three-letter agency isn't going to go in and insert some coding that will talk to your subconscious that you'll never discern, that you won't realize. Going on the assumption, though, that it is valuable and good to have some more conscious control of your assorted brainwaves, I did a little research and I'm happy to report to you that it is something that can be done without listening to YouTube videos and putting yourself potentially at risk for some subconscious programming. So I will have some links to a couple of articles about that. They involve grounding, conscious meditative states, breathing patterns. There's lots of ways that you can work on this without using a potentially corruptible um, video type of setup. I have an app that just emits frequencies, and as you do your reading, you'll learn that there's a binaural beats can be help with this, and that means one ear hears one hertz, one ear hears another, and each part of your brain is hearing something different. And so there's some apps that can be used that have nothing but basic tones. There's ways to do this. I just wanted to put that out there and just put it up for your consideration that since there has been such a huge, huge effort made to keep humanity from waking up, to get us misdirected or distracted if we are in the process of it, I think it is within the realm of possibility that some of the videos out there that are purporting to help you achieve more control and conscious control of your brainwaves may actually have a purpose that isn't quite as light filled. So I just want to put that out there for you and just encourage you to explore some more natural, self-directed ways that you can do that, assuming that it's needed for the med beds. Now let's talk about med beds a little bit. Actually, before we do, I want to circle back and just say that I did ask a question about this. And here's what I got. Assuming the medbed technology and its mandatory brainwave training that was mentioned in that article exists as described, the potential for harm is substantial, particularly in the realm of mental manipulation. The training's ability to alter brainwave patterns could be exploited to control thoughts, suppress autonomy, or enforce ideological conformity, echoing historical abuses like MK Ultra. Psychological instability, exclusion, dependency, and neurological risks further compound concerns, especially given the lack of transparency and military oversight. Again, that was mentioned in the article. While the promise of healing is compelling, the requirement for reprogramming raises ethical and practical red flags. And again, so yeah, I felt some red flags about that, especially being directed to some links for videos that could be corrupted or altered from their original content and state. And so that's why I wanted you to have some access to just some natural methods that don't involve technology, or if they do, you select the technology, work on it at your own, at your own discretion. So then um, I did a little what ifing again. You see, I moved here from Alaska a little over 2 years ago. Shortly before I left, I was in the bedroom community for the Anchorage area and Elmendorf Air Force Base and Richardson, Joint Base Richardson there in Anchorage is a big facility. There's lots of veterans in that region there in Anchorage. And a neighbor of my best friend was a veteran and was called to come back to, if he chose, to go back into Elmendorf because he was told without elaboration that there were some possible new healing methods that could be utilized for his issues. Now, we never heard any more about it, but just remember that point, okay? Then, from another source, I had heard that the technicians that will be using or medical personnel that will be using medbed technology require about 18 months of specialized training. Now, if you train, you need subjects to train with. You need patients. And what better pool of applicants than to use our veterans who've served honorably and deserve to be first in line anyway, but to use them for the training. So it's a win-win situation. And if you get a veteran in on base, there's a secure facility and you can have them sign an NDA. So other than the fact that before he ever went on base, we knew someone had been invited back because there was potentially some healing methodology that he might benefit from after that radio silence, which would kind of go along with the thought of an NDA being in process. So I did a little more spitballing and I said, hey, let's assume that Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska is being used as a medbed training facility. Okay, what other comparable places across the U.S. facilities might be adapted for medbed facility requirements? And so um, there were 5 proposed bases, and if you live near one, maybe you can share some anecdotal information as I could with the neighbor of my best friend. And one of those was Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. It's got the infrastructure. It's already home to a large medical facility training program. It's got lots of veterans for that veteran pool to access from. It's got logistical stability, and it just aligns with the data points that I asked to use for again, spitballing to see if there's other locations across the United States on base that could be medbed active now and for training purposes and veteran access. The Naval Medical Center in San Diego, Naval Base San Diego, California, was another option that seemed to fit the bill as far as having the infrastructure and veteran access, logistical suitability. And there were 3 others. I wanted to share them with you again because maybe you've got a neighbor that was told to come on in and then they stopped talking about it. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center is a huge, huge possibility. It's for that prime. Fort Bragg, or now Fort Liberty, North Carolina, is another one. Now, that's kind of a troubled location as far as um, things going on. I've got video from a couple of years ago because there was a lot of unexplained happenings on that base. But still, it does have basically the infrastructure, training program, access, suitability to be another medbed center. And then the final one was Elgin Air Force Base in Florida. Again, fitting those that rubric of, uh, veteran pool to the infrastructure existing already, could it be a training facility for those medbed technicians? All right. Well, I went a little farther and I said, hey, what about? I'm hearing that there are medbed centers that are quietly being built and then not currently in use. So, what would a medbed center need? It would need access to a good highway system, transportation to get supplies in and out, and people in and out. It would need the kind of zoning, parking for staff and patients. It would need, so I looked at several data points and said, hey, let's just assume that some large cities in the United States may have some, I don't want to say clandestine, but confidential medbed centers ready to go. And using that rubric, I got 10 possible cities and locations. Again, if you're near one and you can provide some information about that, that would be super fantastic. So here comes those 10 possibilities as far as in the general population. Okay. So having them look at using from the data points, again, access, transportation, electrical, parking, space, zoning, etc. In New York, the proposed location was Hunts Point, Bronx, near Bruckner Boulevard and Leggett Avenue. It's got a feasibility for staff and patient parking, interstate highway access, electrical needs, and other needs. Boom. If you're in the Los Angeles area, it was hypothesized that Sylmar, San Fernando Valley near Foothook Boulevard and I-210 is a feasible location. Again, not for something that's currently up and running, but for a facility that would have the adequate access and infrastructure a bit to get up and running quickly. So if you live near there and you know of a place that might be, let us know in the comments or send me an email. If you're in the Chicago, Illinois area, okay, one of the proposed locations for that is, and I'm going to probably butcher this pronunciation, is Hedgewich near 130th Street and Torrance Avenue because it's got the parking facility, the access, electrical needs, and it's zoned M for manufacturing, which would allow medical facilities with permits. Okay, there's large parcels that are available there. So that is a possibility. If you're in the Houston, Texas area, it looks like East Houston near I-10 and Federal Road would be a good spot for a medbed facility. Again, meeting those different criteria for access, transportation, parking, electrical, zoning, etc. If you're in Phoenix, Arizona, that's number 5. The potential location could be Deer Valley near 27th Avenue and Deer Valley Road. Again, meeting those criteria. Number 6, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. These are, again, are the 10 largest cities in the United States or metropolitan areas. A proposed location for Philadelphia would be Port Richmond near Richmond Street and Castor Avenue. And if you're in San Antonio, Texas, a proposed location there would be Westover Hills near US 151 and Loop 1604. If you're in San Diego, a proposed location there is Otay Mesa near Airway Road and SR 905. Again, these are just hypothetical, but I'm thinking if there's some med beds that are facilities that are going out there, we might hit the mark on one or two of these, okay? The number 9 in the Dallas area, we've got Northwest Dallas near I-35E and Loop 12 has the access and space and electrical needs And it's got C zones that are available, suitable for a new facility. It's got proximity to Parkland Memorial Hospital, again, because you're going to have some cross-training staff that start with traditional medicine and switch over to medbed facilities. In Austin, Texas, a proposed location could have been Southeast Austin near SH 71 and US 183. So again, I was just spitballing, using some search programs on the web. I'm not saying any of those locations are ones that I have visited, although I have been on the Elmendorf Air Force Base numerous times, not in recent years. And uh, just wondering where they would be if they were going in. It seems to me, again, I'm sorry that the Laura's view on this is going on so long, but I really, really wanted you guys to explore natural means of brainwave control and stimulation, not just rely on videos. And then I just got curious about the topic, and I thought, if med beds are rolling out, if they're rolling out, it seems like having them on bases would provide the security, the limiting the access, so they're not overwhelmed, and provide those training opportunities. So I think the thoughts about those on base sites is on point. And then extending from that, having them be spread out over the largest population areas, again, to have, eventually, I'm told we'll have them in our homes. But to start with, it seems like large metropolitan areas are going to have the centers up and running first after the people have trained and gotten really competent with them on those secure facilities on the bases. Made sense to me. Now, for the tarot element of this video, I'd like to ask the universe if my thought that if it's, yeah, is it accurate? Is it true that there's medbed facilities being used for training purposes, if for no other reason, on military bases here in the United States, plus additional insights and information about medbeds in general? And one other thing, one last Laura's view. There's a lot of scammers out there, guys. If you have someone, and there's a lot of people that are desperate to get to those medical medbed facilities, sooner rather than later, and curb that desperation. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of. I don't think you're going to need to have any kind of a subscription fee, any kind of a entry fee, anything like that to have access to the med beds. I don't think it's going to involve money. That's a scammer technique. So if someone tells you that you need to reserve your spot or you need to, and pay up some money, and I'm not mentioning names here because I don't know specific names actually. I just can see the potential for scammers. So please be smart. Okay, if we're going to have access to quantum healing methods like this that are so light filled, so beautiful, it's not going to be tied to our monetary system. So don't let yourself think that you're reserving or getting a cut in line by, subscribing with someone or anything like that. Please do not do that. And I am talking about the advanced medbed technology that is still not available to us. I am not talking about people that are doing some of these sound rife type of healing centers. Okay, some of those are for profit and they probably should be. They're using, just a variation of 3D technology and there's expenses involved. I'm talking about quantum healing methods. If someone says, hey, I know about those, I can get you on the list, we can move you up the list for X amount of dollars, run, run in the other direction. Okay. Now let's go on to the tarot portion of this video and see what the universe wants us to know about medbed technologies, and yes or no, are they being used for training purposes, etc., on military bases in the United States as was hypothesized using the criteria I used? Let's find out. So yes or no is there accuracy in the thought that on secure military installations, larger ones here in the United States, there may be some medbed facilities and training and medbed use in process, plus additional insights and information about medbeds in general? Ace of Wands. Yes, indeedy, folks. We already have a yes. Then we have the Five of Swords. Seven. I thought that would come up. Seven of Cups. Queen of Cups. Now we're getting into near future insights, etc. Page of Wands. Five of Pentacles. And then the Four of Wands, and I'll get additional cards, but let's stop here and talk about these. So we've got our hard yes here with the Ace of Wands. We absolutely do. So there are medbed facilities that are actively operating in around the U.S. Like I said, my big thought was Elmendorf because of, some personal data that intersected just the thought with that. So, and then possibly those other places. But yes, absolutely. The Seven of Swords just talks about, they're just not ready to make this technology available to the general public, although there are, I believe, some victims as well as veterans. So the V's, victims and veterans get first in line, guys. Okay? Victims of, tunnel shenanigans, things like that. And then veterans, of course, that have served. Absolutely. Smoke and mirrors showing up here. they're, they're the facilities are not being labeled as what they are, but they are, smoke and mirrors going on here. And I'm seeing that there's going to be some choices in the types of healing that are going to be offered and available. One of the options that we hear is out there is for regenerating limbs. And that would be compelling to have some veterans that formerly had titanium limbs regrow and show on video. And that's going to be the big selling point when that happens. But I'm getting it right now. Then that's kind of under wraps a little bit still. It's not the ones being utilized. They're going for healing, PTSD, that type of thing. Okay, the Queen of Cups shows up for the front and center again. I think this is just a nod that, yeah, it's going to happen. We're smart to be expecting it, but we're also smart not to be counting on immediate direct access to it for ourselves. That's just the way it is. I wish it wasn't. Then looking forward, we got the near future card, the Page of Wands showing up. And this card is a discovery card and cautious optimism. So it does look like that rollout is going to happen sooner than I was kind of braced for, and that's good. The strongest insight card again here, this is the card that kind of told me, hey, victims as well as veterans are getting some access to that now before the like the major metropolitan centers open up. And then they're trying to do it in such a way that, first of all, we can see the logic and the heart that went into who got in them first. Absolutely. That we can see that. I mean, who would question a victim or a veteran from having that kind of access before, a neighbor gets a ulcer fixed or something like that? Then, but this card, yeah, it's coming through, guys. It is coming through. Let's get some more cards. Oh, hi, Star. 17th Major Arcana showing up for a little more information on a victory card with the Six of Wands. So, guys, you can start getting excited about medbed information again, but do your due diligence and don't get caught up in any scams about it. It's coming, though. I'm seeing it coming here. We got the Four of Pentacles, and the final card, we have the Five of Swords. So when the star card shows up, this is a card of, we already had some optimism showing up here and here, but with this one says, things are just beautiful. We've got, there's going to be an opportunity for joy. Absolutely. And then the Six of Wands is a victory card. So again, yes, this information that the rollout is imminent is pretty accurate. I But again, I'm seeing that where it's really going to be active is on bases, not in large metropolitan areas yet. That's a little farther down the road. The again, we got our final cards here. We've got the Four of Pentacles, which just talks about managing resources, because again, they can only managed to they've got to train the staff and it's new technology, so there's limited numbers of personnel that are going to be able and available to handle these things. And they understand that it's kind of some hard choices have come along with this. Now the nice thing is, with this five of swords being the final card, first of all, it's less impactful, but it does talk about kind of a win, a partial win. So it's a temporary situation that some people aren't going to be, that are going to be turned away and not able to access that kind of technology yet. But it's coming when it'll be more and more and more readily available. And eventually, there's not going to be waiting lines, and there's not going to be, you know, life or death decisions and some of those heartbreaking decisions you have to make on prioritizing care when care is limited and the providers that are trained to give it are limited too. So the universe says it's coming, guys, and absolutely right now, on basis, possibly those or others that I mentioned earlier in this video, it's happening. So let's recap. There was an article in on roserambles.org yesterday that talked about how medbed technology was about to be more readily available, that Trump's alliance was behind it, and that it would require some training in your alpha wave and delta wave control capabilities to utilize fully. And that is just a really brief summary of what it was talking about, guys. Now, I was immediately concerned because the videos that were linked to help with that, there's no guarantee that even if they were made with beautiful intent when they were made, that they couldn't be in some way co-opted or corrupted and have some programming added to them. And as I said, we have worked so hard to shake off programming to become logical thinkers that use our critical thinking, that learn to use discernment, that are starting to learn how to manifest. We don't want anybody shutting that down or turning that off or getting that uh, detoured. And so I did a little search and found some very natural ways without using technology that you can practice those type of skills should they indeed be necessary. And it surely couldn't hurt to be able to have more conscious control of the different brain waves that we have for the different states of our awakened awareness. And I've got a couple of links in the video description box to articles that talk about that, doing it naturally, doing it without technology or selectively using technology of your choosing. And then I will do the link to that original article that, like I said, I read it with interest, but then I got concerned and that kind of started this whole process. As I was doing that, I thought back to how before I left Alaska, I knew of a veteran that had been contacted to come back on base to Elmendorf because there was some new technology that might be able to help him. We never heard more about it. And I'd also heard that training for medbed technicians takes about 18 months, and they need people to work on. And who better than veteran population? Those that would willingly sign an NDA and not talk, loose lips, sink ships type of thing. Avoid that. So did a little looking and thinking and put some criteria into the computer for possible other places, other bases that might have some medbed technology. You can read back at watch the full video if you're interested in that. And then looking at that, thinking, okay, once the bases, the facilities on bases are fully staffed, trained, and maybe have access so that they could start moving out into the general population, that would probably be in large population zones at first, again, to have the most easiest access to the largest number of people possible. Found some hypothetical spots there. And just encourage people, if you live in one of those areas and you could, and they were hypothetical. Okay. If you could confirm that there's some potential for any of those locations, great. Let us know in the comments or shoot me an email. If you're under an NDA and can't talk about medbed facilities, but you've had one, just send me an email with a big happy face on it. Okay? Love some information. We ask the universe, though, is it true that medbed technology is being used on military bases right now? with our veterans for training purposes, etc. And plus additional insights and information about med beds in general. Very first card showed up, subject, boom. We got our hard yes with the Ace of Wands. Absolutely. It's happening, folks. So Elmendorf and those other places, definitely, it's something that's going on in the bases now, and and they have to do it. Okay, we got some cautious optimism here. Okay, you got to get a certain, percentage of staff ready to make these procedures and technology available to a wider base of the population. But right now, what I got was veterans and victims of horrible shenanigans have a priority and a focus right now, and that's as it should be. Um, but great cards. Star showed up, said, yeah, we're moving towards it. And it showed up right with the victory card of the Six of Wands. Absolutely. So, and then just the reality check. They've got limited resources right now. And I'm saying limited because if it takes 18 months to train and you need thousands of people trained, it just takes a while to get that staffing base ready to have it widely available, worldwide. But it's coming, folks. It is. And the days when it's limited are temporary in nature. So it is coming. And then one last caution, besides the fact that I would encourage you, if you see value in learning how to control and um, have more conscious control of your different brain waves, please use natural sources only that can't be impacted by hijinks, and don't get yourself reprogrammed back. And if you want to have your mental clarity to be under your control at all times, not just vulnerable to um, something that might be, their intent might be more to get you to go back to sleep or to be programmed, etc. So natural, please go natural. And then the other thing was, and I'm not talking about people that have some healing centers out that aren't med beds, that are like the Rife centers, things like that. I'm not talking about those. Those have a profit base and rationale, and I'm not saying avoid them. What I'm saying is if there is someone that claims to have special med bed access, can prioritize your care, etc., with the healing technology that is not yet out but should be at some point soon, and they want a subscription fee, they want a registration fee, they want any kind of money to hold your place in line or to bump you up the line, it is a scam. I don't care how sincere they seem, and please don't give them your money. Okay? So I try to have people be smart consumers, and that includes being smart consumers of information and the things you pin your hopes and dreams on. Okay? So that's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you'd like to receive it, I send you love, light, and I wish for you everything bright. Bye.